Alex from the University of California in Los Angeles. He's from the Anderson School, and he's here to share what's new at Anderson and why you should be applying to Anderson this fall. So thank you, Alex, for being here. We really appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
So what brings you to India?
Well, I do a lot of recruiting all around the world, and part of my team, this is the busy time of the year, so we want to make sure that we get out and share as much information about the full-time MBA program, what opportunities are available to our students, alumni, what our community is doing in general. So I've been visiting, this is my third year coming to India and hosting information sessions and meeting with great partners like you.
Okay, that's terrific to hear, and actually sends out a very warm signal, that the fact that you actually make the trip to our home country and meet students here. It's really nice of the school to endorse such an opinion. So what's new at UCLA? What's going on? It's your third trip here. Every year you come to us with some new exciting news about the school. So what's new this time?
Sure. So I believe, in my opinion, some of the exciting news is that even though our dean is leaving the program, we have a new interim dean, Dean Osborne. He comes with a lot of great experience from the entrepreneurial set. He's been affiliated with the school for over 30 years. In addition, we're introducing some new curriculum aspects, including we have a venture accelerator at the school, so anybody who's interested or looking at a career from the entrepreneurial mindset, that's a great program to be involved with. We keep reevaluating and tinkering with our technology programming as well, so anybody who's interested in a career in the technology space. And I think one of the new things, it's not necessarily new, but over the last 3 years, more and more of our students are looking at and doing academic internships, so which is separate from the summer internship. So we're really bolstering up that program, and specifically from the Career Management Center, supporting those students who are looking to work during the academic year, especially those who are career switchers. That's a very important part of the whole activity set.
Okay, great. So lots going on. You mentioned technology, you mentioned venture cap, and those two seem to be the buzzwords for students looking to apply to schools on the West Coast. So what do you think, if any, is there an advantage to the UCLA location, and how does that manifest into the students' experience while they're there?
Definitely. When you look at the students and even the applicants who are applying to our program, for us, over 50-60% are career switchers. So they're looking to go into areas like real estate, technology, management, consulting. Some are looking at something to do entrepreneurial. Being in Los Angeles is a fantastic environment to be in because we have access to Silicon Valley, we have access to Silicon Beach. They're in Los Angeles. When you look at our program, it's very diverse in the number of students and the population that are there, and the opportunities are very diverse. So we always say that we face growing economies, Asia, Pacific Rim, Latin America as well, even though some of our students go to the East Coast as well, so it's a great location to be involved, at least in the Los Angeles community, but then you also have access to other regions all over the world.
Okay, terrific. So clearly this sounds like a very exciting place to go to. And I don't have a second chance at the MBA, but I visited your campus.
Neither do I.
So for the people who are applying this year, just to understand the kind of profile that UCLA looks for, questions on the tests. So any preference between the GMAT and the GRE? And what kind of scores are you looking for? I know every school publishes a range,
yes.
But how legitimate is that range? Is it like one student at that bottom range? Can you explain the diversity in scores that you're looking for?
Yeah, sure. So GMAT versus GRE, we accept, depending on some careers, some focus that you're looking at, some firms are looking at GMAT scores in particular. A lot of management consulting or banking firms. So some students, and it's a very small number, once they realize that after they've been admitted, like I want to work for this company that only looks at GMAT scores, I'm like, oh, I need to take the GMAT now because I already submitted scores to the GRE. So think about what kind of career you want to follow, what kind of firm that you may want to apply to, and see if a GMAT score is required. You mentioned ranges of scores, so just focusing on the GMAT. You look at our 80 percentile range, it is 680 to 750. We deny people with scores above, say, 720. We admit people with scores below the 680. It's all about the whole population of, I'm sorry, it's all about your entire application. But the fact is, depending on the region of the world where the applications come from, we get a large number of applications from India,
Of course, yeah.
from China. Those are great regions in the world where there's a lot of great test takers, so you have to just be really realistic about how strong your scores are, but then also the rest of your application. So if you have, say, lower test scores, maybe some other areas of your application should and need to be a lot stronger. And the reverse, if you have some if you have some lower test scores, if you have high test scores, but you have some lower areas of your application,
Sure.
work experience, you name it, there's still an opportunity for you to be admitted to the school. So it's not always about having an 800 GMAT, a 10.0, whatever the grade scale is, or 5 years work experience. It's about the whole application.
Okay, terrific. So you talked about this holistic approach to looking at an applicant, and I noticed this year's essay talks about passion.
Yes.
So clearly passion is a big component, and why did you guys think about passion? And because there's a few essays, and one of the key essays is about passion. So how does UCLA think about passion, and why does passion take precedence over so many other things?
Yes, sure. So we also obviously have questions that relate to your career, what's your focus, why are you getting an MBA, but we also want to give applicants an opportunity to share something about himself or herself. There are obvious points in the application where you can submit a resume. We look at your other essays. There's also the interview where we get sort of like a lens or a view into your personality, but we want to give people another opportunity to talk about anything they want, because when you look at our community, students who come on our campus, they're very involved. They follow sort of their own dreams. They get involved with activities that really align with their own values, their own hobbies, perhaps something that's not always just associated with the career. It's not a trick question. You don't have to make it sound like, oh, my favorite passion is related to a career in business. So, it's not a trick question. We just want people really to share honestly about who they are, so that, again, those are the kind of individuals that we want to see on our campus ultimately, if they are competitive, if they are qualified as well.
Sure. So, I was reading through the essays and you talked about, the resume and the goals and passion. It seems like to come to that stage, you're looking for someone who's been through some process of introspection and has worked a few years.
Yes.
So when you look at the work experience spectrum, what is the range there, and what do you recommend in your experience is sort of the ideal age to apply to this program?
Sure. So I know depending on what your experience is, especially I understand in different regions of the world, there might be an emphasis to get your education quickly and out of the way and not necessarily get work experience. However, what we've seen, especially for our business community who are looking to hire qualified talent like you, they're looking for individuals that have some work experience. On average for our students, especially coming in the class of 2020, they have about 4.5 to 5 years of work experience. It's not a quota. We've admitted students with more than 5 years of work experience. There's very few people who we admit have no work experience. Typically, those are individuals who participate, like say, in our joint degree programs, JD MBA, MD MBA. But I think, in what I have seen and what our students experience, is that for those who are looking for those very competitive careers or looking to partner with employers for summer internship and full-time opportunities, they're the ones who are most attractive, who are coming in with some quality, quantitative work experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, but it has to be an amount of time at 1, 2, 3 employers and having progression. You don't always have to have been promoted, but it's more about getting more responsibility in your workplace, perhaps managing a team. Again, these are not all requirements, but we want to see some level of accomplishment in your work experience.
Okay, great. That explains a lot, actually. So my last question before we open it to the house. How would you describe in 3 words the UCLA experience in contrast to other schools on the West Coast?
Okay, wow, 3 words. That was the curveball. So I'll probably do more than 3 words. What I would say is it's unique. And the reason why I say it's unique is because being in Southern California, being in Los Angeles, being at UCLA, not just UCLA Anderson. It's a big campus. It's an environment that has a tremendous amount of opportunities. We're not just a one or two dimensional type of school. We're not just a banking, finance, or say a marketing school. We have those and many more. So I invite you to look at our website, our brochures for more information. I would say when you look at our community and our students, they're accomplished. So you're going to be meeting people just as smart as you, who've had a tremendous amount of different unique life experiences, both academically, professionally, and socially. And then I think the last thing I would say, I'm going to go back to the essay. Again, not just all about in the classroom or something professionally. You're going to be among a group of individuals who have unique ideas about what impact they want to make, not only at the school, but in a broader sense. And that's why I think, especially as an alumnus myself, I never would have thought that I would be in higher ed. I was one of those sort of typical people. I wanted to go to management consulting. I worked in management consulting 5 or 6 years, but then along the way, I wanted to sort of leverage what I did in management consulting and bring that experience into the higher ed space, getting a chance to work with all of you and showcasing and sharing the Anderson experience, the Anderson family, all that kind of.
Wow, so I'm glad you went to UCLA and made that shift, because we wouldn't have had this opportunity to interact with you had it not been for the shift. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
This has been really helpful.
GMAT pool of students who we admit and who enroll is much higher than that. I'm not going to share sort of what is that number. However, this is my commitment to you and even our students who say, like, if you have any questions, by all means, contact them. We have students who have from India who have GMAT scores below that, 717, and of course some students who've been admitted who have higher scores. We're not just fixated on the GMAT score from China and India, because we can get a lot of great GMAT scores that help do it. The reality is that, but when you look at the overall sort of pool around the world, even domestic U.S., we have some great domestic U.S. admitted students who have high test scores as well. For us, it is the quality. Now, the reality is we can take an extreme amount of people and test scores sort of at the lower range, because, at the end of the day, for us, we want to make sure that you succeed in the classroom and on the professional side as well. And when you're in a room, very competitive, sort of type A people, a little bit like yourselves, again, it makes the sort of the academics where you probably graduated, you were at the top of your class. Now you're going to be with everybody who was at the top of their class. And so, in some classes, the professors want to sort of make sure there's a range of scores, So again, for us, we want to see that your two is making sure to see that you can handle the academic rigor of our MBA program, and we use the GMAT or the GRE to see and make sure that that's sort of like our sort of alleviates any fears that we may have that you may not succeed. So while again, the overall test score is side, again, I'm not of how we do things, but it's the financial side of things. Our merit fellowships are tied to a formula that includes the GMAT score. Again, not saying that everybody who has a high GMAT score, everybody gets a fellowship. It is the holistic view. But you want to make sure that you're strong in all areas. And the fact of the matter is, in the broader industry, it's GMAT inflation. The score just keeps going higher and higher. The way the format is given out these days right now, even I try to keep track of it, where you can cancel a score. People I see now, and what GMAT shares with us, is that they're seeing people, not just from India, but just all over the world, where people just take a part of the exam and they're just trying to get better and better. And so they'll take it like 10 times and they'll cancel it before they really submit the real score. I don't advise that, but that's sort of the reality of where we're at right now, where there is that GMAT inflation. But like I said, you just think about the overall picture.
Alex, the party spoke about your attitude. Do you think taking courses outside of undergrad that suppose business development or any quantitative score like finance or otherwise, do you think that helps pursue candidacy?
Definitely. So when you look at our program, I'll give this other group a little plug. We have a class made of poets and quants, right? So there are the people who, through university, they take a lot of math courses, business backgrounds, but they've done well in their career, they've done well academically, but they want to show to us that they can have tips or extensive. You have to take like 3, 4, 5 different courses because between your transcript, between the GMAT or GRE and additional score, if people are concerned about showing that I can do the math, then we totally advise that. And it is who you are an engineer or whatever, and you have low grades, or you have just low grades in general, and you didn't do too well in quantitative classes for whatever reason, then we do advise taking that additional course, getting that additional quantitative course, getting that, but then also you should do well on the standardized test too. And then some people just take the course for fun because maybe they come from a non-business sort of background, focused in undergraduate studies, and they just want to get prepared for the MBA experience. That's what I did. You know, like I said, engineer, I took like 4 calculus classes, 4 physics classes in university, but by the time I knew I was going to go to get an MBA, I got admitted to Anderson, like, let me just take an accounting course. It was after the fact, that had nothing to do with my application at all, but I just wanted to kind of get familiar with the terms. Yes.
Yes. For somebody who's looking at entrepreneurship even after MBA, probably coming back to India and getting into entrepreneurship, I want to understand how strong is the alumni network here in India per se and Asia in general.
So that's great. You should, I don't know if you're coming tonight, I'll have some alumni, but I think one of the testimonies that an alumnus did last night when we were in Bangalore was the alumni network is strong, but typically we see from our alumni, especially in Asia and in India, this part of the world, is that many will come stay in the U.S., whether it be Los Angeles or some part domestically, and then transition back to the regions of the world like India because for whatever reason, some say I want to go the debt of the MBA, some say I want to build out my network in the U.S. before returning, especially on the entrepreneurial side. So they'll work in, I'm thinking about a classmate of mine in particular, worked at PwC, he worked at IBM, Digital Solutions, all in the U.S., San Francisco, Los Angeles in particular, and then he moved out here to, he has his own VC shop right now. He interacts not just with the Anderson alumni, and I think that's one of the sort of the strengths of our own alumni network, where we're very open to, and we work with other school alumni. So his business partner is a Wharton alumnus, so he travels. So whenever I come to India, I always see Sanjay, where it's in here, Mumbai, or he also said, like, hey, I'm not going to see you in Mumbai, I'll see you in Delhi. So he has all those business dealings, but that just shows you sort of the commitment of our alumni who are just like, hey, especially when I come from the admissions side where the dean alumni come out, they want to get in touch with what's going on with the school. How can they support whatever facets of the school? Because, you know, for you, it was great to hear Sanjay last night talk about his, like what he perceives as sort of the future for young MBA like you, whatever school you go to, especially if you want to come back to India, what the opportunities are. And again, every year when I come, I learn from him too. He says, like, what India looked like 5 years ago is totally different today. And the opportunities, and of course, when we went to school, it was all before cell phones and the internet was just come on. So he sort of seen, especially coming from this side of the world, like how the region has developed and even how domestically, how the U.S. businesses or individuals are trying to partner or look for opportunities outside of those walls, looking at growing industries, growing nations, growing areas where money can be parked. Like I said, he has an incubator as well, so him and his group are always investing in startups to see what's the next best thing. Yes.
Yeah, also West Coast is it's less affected by Trump policies maybe because evolved in the
We're off.
So coming back to the elephant in the room, which is H1B.
Yes.
How does the Anderson and the team helps us out in ensuring that H1B and the process is also seen by your side, just career management team,
yes,
as well as the company's side?
No, that's great. And today we didn't get that on video too. So I always say, like, to do a public service announcement, and this is for any program you look at, you should look at the career management center if that's going to be instrumental in sort of your vision or what you want to do post MBA. So I think our team is spectacular, and they're typically ranked in the top 3 worldwide in terms of career management services. When you look at the team itself, they have full-time counselors. All of them are coming from a specific industry which they manage, whether real estate, entrepreneurship, retail, management consulting, finance. Those individuals have worked in those areas. The person who's in charge, Regina Ragazzi, my counterpart, she did work on Wall Street. She works with everybody who's like more focused on finance. Whether it be she loves investment, she loves the bankers. She'll say like we own banking on the West Coast. However, able to place people no matter where they go because their philosophy is it's about you. It's not, like I said before, we're not I would say like a one-trick pony. We're not just a finance school or a consulting school. So if you have an idea about a particular industry, a firm that you want to work for, they start with that. So the relationship begins way before you start on campus. So once you get admitted, commit to the school, that relationship experience can start as early as May before you even come on campus in August, because they give you homework. They say, okay, you want to do investment banking. So they say, okay, one of the things we have to revamp your resume in that sort of banking format. We got to work on your 30-second pitch. We're going to give you homework. Identify 3 firms that you think you might want to work at, say for the summer internship. Investigate the culture, investigate what skill sets they're looking for, and see whether or not you have those skill sets, whether or not the Anderson curriculum in general can help bridge those gaps. So you do all this homework, so by the time you come on campus in August and you start meeting with the counselor, you may sort of find out, like, I don't want to do investment banking anymore, or I do want to still do it, and I want to go with this firm, or no, I don't want to go with this firm. And they start this process, this relationship. Now, many times, you may not like what the counselor tells you, like, you know what, you think you might be a good fit for Moelis, but you don't really necessarily have the right skill set, and they're really talking from their own experience, their relationships with the industry, because they have a Rolodex of people who they interact with. They travel pretty much throughout the summer before the academic year starts. They're talking with recruiters who are giving them feedback about the forecast for hiring, the sort of the change or the shift in the kind of personnel they're looking for, so that when you come and you say like, okay, I want to work in LA, I want to work for this type of banking firm, they may say, you know what, our forecasters are going to be 10 positions available for all MBAs, or whatever the number may be. So you may have to broaden sort of your scope, the firms you have, the geography. So back to your original question, when it comes to visas, that goes in part 2 with sort of their experience and what they're seeing. They're going to tell you, like, these are the firms, these are the opportunities that you probably want to sort of steer away from, because these firms may not have any experience with the whole visa process. A lot of sort of your in my own words, your generation is interested in startups, firms, smaller, but they give a lot of visibility. And that, so, again, their sort of advice is like, a lot of these firms may not have the resources or the experience with that whole visa process. Obviously, from their experience, they have a long lineage of working with international students, giving experience and sort of feedback, but these are the ones who were able successfully to get a visa. The reality is that there's a finite set of visas for all sort of the international community. That's not going to change anytime soon. However, like I said, and I don't have my slides here with me now, but tonight I always showcase, like, okay, over the last 2 years, here's some alumni who are willing to talk about how they were successfully able to make the transition to get a visa, or they're in the process right now. And when you look at sort of their profile from doing academic internships, summer internships, and now in the full-time, they sort of built up their resume and have worked with firms who, again, may not, in sort of the latter phase, again, from the full-time employment, they have a good track record of sort of helping students get visas, but the early ones, the building blocks, bolstering up the resume so they can put themselves in the right position to get the summer internship, to get the full-time offer, at least in that one-year period following graduation, put them in a better position to ultimately fulfill their needs.
Continuing on that question.
Yes.
So these schools are mainly, tech, financial consultancy is covered. LA has a unique advantage because they have Hollywood in it, and it is also Netflix in LA.
Yeah.
So how cohesive it is to get an internship at Netflix or something like that.
Yeah.
Because Anderson has a unique advantage of being in
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah, that's a great example with Netflix and our career management center based on their interaction with Netflix. Netflix doesn't hire any MBAs, as summer internships. But that's great to know, like early on and up front. I know, and you still see students sort of like, hey, I was able to get an academic internship. That's great, but Netflix will even come out in their own employer briefings when they come on campus, like, right, this is what we're looking for. And they tell you sort of like the profile and experience that they're looking for. So they may not hire, say, an individual right at graduation or maybe a year out, but they may hire people 2-3 years out. Again, not saying it's impossible, but that's, again, another great example where you have these firms. I know you're sort of going in that direction. LA, New York, entertainment and media, right? So, and again, some students very successful where they have experience in entertainment and media, or they come from an industry where they have a strong functional skill set that makes it easy to make the transition. But when you look at that area in particular, it's a non-traditional recruiting track, right? So while the consultants and the bankers and some of the tech people, they're getting interviews, they're getting offers, they're celebrating early in the academic year, the people who are in entertainment and media, real estate, they have to go this different path, right? They have to do a lot more informational interviews. They have to do a lot more industry sort of events and activities. It's a lot of networking. They have to leverage other parts of the school's program, like a project in entertainment and media. They do the academic intern opportunities, like I mentioned. I talked earlier about a lot of networking. They'll with the counselor and say, okay, let's open up the Rolodex. What's the firms you want to work with? Again, let's go with Netflix. Hey, go speak with this alumni at the program, and they can kind of talk about what skill sets, what sort of opportunities, what career background they're looking for. And it may be like, and again, I don't know this for sure, but with Netflix, they may say like, we're only looking for people with digital experience in their background, a certain amount of years, who may be coming from a certain sort of industry, maybe entertainment, I don't know. But that's the whole point of working with a career management center like ours, to your point, being sort of in a region like Los Angeles that has a strong focus like in entertainment media. And I would say that, obviously that is one of the more obvious ones, but I mentioned before how Dean Ragazzi says, banking on the West Coast, people can always do the sort of the launch pad to the Pacific Northwest for tech, or Northern California. So again, when you look at our program, it is small, and don't get discouraged when you see only 5% go into entertainment, or 6% go into real estate, or 4% go into energy, but 30% go in tech. It's more about what you want to do, because like I said, you can easily get, I won't say discouraged, but it's just like, why are only 5% going to entertainment? It's just more about the students really drive that number, and we have no quota, so we're not saying we're only going to take so many bankers or consultants or people focused in whatever areas.
And 5% entertainment is still very high compared to a lot of schools on the East Coast.
Yeah, and when you do your research, right, when you look, in entertainment, sort of like the compensation level, maybe out of graduation is nowhere near the banking level.
Yeah,
but it's again driven by you. Do you want to be working 100 hours a week, in banking, in the traditional mindset, or do you want to be on the creative side? You'd probably be making a lot less, but you might be doing something, making this up. You're working at Netflix or some other firm because you're in the industry.
Is the career management services department actively looking at companies in India and China and Korea to try and find students jobs back in their home countries in the environment?
That's a great question. I know that for the first time last year, the person who works with the international students, she actually did a tour through China. I don't know if she went through India specifically, but again, part of that sort of due diligence of okay, what are you looking for in terms of, and again, I don't know if it was more on the summer internship or the full-time opportunities, but I know she did interact with alumni like in the Google offices in Beijing. She's from Beijing too, so she wanted to do this, and I know that at least from my experience being there for the last 6 years, that's the first time I heard of us doing more outreach in the international students because of the challenges of the visas, and even for us at that time, the class of 19, 37% of the class were international students, and now we're back to sort of like a historical number, about 30%, so 33. Yes?
So, Alex, I want to ask, like, how does the AdCom look at candidates who already have an MBA from India previously and are now applying, or like a second MBA?
Yeah. So, and I'll sort of broaden that question a little bit more. I would say that if you have any questions, definitely reach out to my office because, UCLA Anderson is one graduate program at the bigger University of California system. So when you look at the University of California system in terms of requirements, and it's not just international students, but applicants to the graduate programs, there's a lot of rules and some of them for us, we're saying like, oh, why are we the only sort of school that has us in Berkeley, because we're at the University of California. So for example, TOEFL, why do we have to take TOEFL? It's like, it's not me, it's not Anderson, but we're part of it. So, again, going back to your original question, like candidates who have an MBA may not be allowed to be admitted. But again, that's what I'm saying, may. That's why you should contact my office because they have the list of degrees that would make you inadmissible. Certain schools, if you went to certain schools, you may be waived from having to take the TOEFL as well. Like in the U.S. system, if you have a GPA below a 3.0, you may not. You have to follow a certain guideline to be admitted. So there's like all these things. But I say like you can sort of fast track all the research you may have to do if you just contact my office directly and say like, hey, I spoke with Alex. Here's my situation. I've got an MBA. I've taken the TOEFL 3 years ago. Is it still eligible? I took the GMAT or GRE. That's why we're there. So again, it's not me, it's not us, but there's a set of policies, and we try to do it as best we can in FAQs. But don't tell my office that I told you everything. Fast track that content and say, hey, I spoke with Alex, and he said that I should contact you if I have any questions in general.
Just to add to that, so if like profile again, as you said, like the UC, if the University of California requires it, so do you provide any waivers if say like a lot of colleges have this thing, if your undergrad was in English, or like say in my case I've done a postgraduate degree but it was in English. So do you also provide waivers if you request or?
Yeah, at this time we don't. We only have application waivers for domestic military. So again, that's something we just implemented this year. So we're constantly evolving because again, one thing is that we want to, especially from my side, I want to make it as easy as possible to apply. I don't want to make it an easy application. However, we want to kind of take down the barriers, especially not discourage you, like, oh my gosh, I got to take another test of the TOEFL, or so that's why questions about GMAT or GRE. But hey, we take either one, but you have to realize or understand the opportunity, knowing that. And I see it every year about like 2 or 3 students who've been admitted who enroll. Say they take the GRE and then they come to Anderson, they talk with their counselor, and they're just like, oh, I didn't realize that McKinsey only looks at people who have a 750 GMAT score.
Wow.
So like I only took the GRE, so now they're studying for the GMAT if they really want to work for McKinsey like that. Yeah.
So when we spoke like 2 years back, you told me about social entrepreneurship. So we were discussing about social entrepreneurship, and you said like you're constantly evolving. So from then to now, do you think in terms of social, because I am a social entrepreneur and the purpose of me going to business school is actually to scale it to a more global level. So what facilities do you think UCLA can provide? We've touched on entrepreneurship, but do you think specifically do something about social entrepreneurship as well?
Yeah, so I think immediately we have an area called Impact at Anderson. So it's an office that it's basically been like almost 2 years in existence where we have people in there. We're just waiting for somebody to write a check for like $5 million to be our next research center. And I've seen it before, so we got to like 8 research centers. So that center, it has a director, there's a faculty director too. They partner with the Center for Entrepreneurship in developing workshops. there is a roadmap, one of the specializations now. So I'm seeing a lot of the opportunities being built out for students. The challenge that I always say that whether it be social entrepreneurship, social innovation, whatever it is, like a lot of, again, your peers coming to school, like I want to do something in the impact space, and they see people who have these careers, a lot of them who have like sort of like a long roadmap, you know, and they're like, I want to do exactly what he or she's doing. It's just like, well, when you look at how they did it, not saying that's the way you have to do it, they worked for a considerable amount of time, and then the opportunities may not be there in abundance, like all these other careers we've talked about, like in banking, consulting, and things like that. So I'm starting to see more of our students finding on the summer internship or even the academic internship side, like working at the Gates Foundation, you know, something like that. But the Gates Foundation and others not hiring like 50 MBAs, you know what I mean? They may, I'm not making this up, they may be having summer internship opportunities, but students are having to find like a large number of resources, and where you'll see like, oh, there's hired 2 here, 3 here, or things of that nature. So, but that's again where that area, Impact at Anderson, is working with not just the Price Center for Entrepreneurship, but our Career Management Center as well, because these organizations aren't coming on campus like on the traditional on-campus recruiting model like the other firms are. So it's a lot more like, oh, this is the kind of opportunities we have available. Not so much, I don't want to say just word of mouth, but interacting with a Career Management Center so they can share that with the students, especially with the counselor who's working with probably about 30 students. And ultimately, some students sort of have a backup plan, because if they say like, you know, I don't see something that really aligns with my values or something that really resonates with me, so I'm going to go with my plan B. But I'll still use, say, the academic internship sort of as an opportunity to kind of keep on getting my name out there, getting some experience on my resume, so that ultimately maybe after I graduate there will be something that really I'm really passionate about, knowing that, again, a lot of those opportunities may not come through the traditional sort of channels.
Are you looking to get a job? Because from what I understand, you're looking to scale your current
Yeah,
enterprise. So then the career service is not
very
not as relevant
Yeah.
for the skill set.
But I'll still throw them in. I mean, the Price Center, again, from what I little know about what you just mentioned, but the Price Center for Entrepreneurship, that research center would be something that you definitely sort of interact with, right? You're talking about scaling up your current enterprise. However, like I said, there's somebody still in the Price Center, in the Parker Career Management Center who works with the entrepreneurs, because, and again, I throw it out there, a lot of times we see students like, have this idea, I have this business, and not knowing where it is in the development. I want to go down this path, you know, and then sometimes they have to pivot because the reality starts coming up. It's like not everybody can just not work during the summer internship, you know, from the affordability of the MBA.
Absolutely.
So, however, you know, we do have some fellowships for entrepreneurs that you can work on your business during the summer. But again, it's good to have that sort of backup plan, because then, hey, I want to maybe work for another entrepreneur who's out there recruiting too during the summer. So it's like you definitely don't want to sort of cut off the Career Management Center, and then all of a sudden like, oh, let me go work with them. It's like, oh, where were you 10 months ago? Yeah.
Alex, could you touch upon the curriculum, please? Because whether he wants to go to social enterprise and she comes from a law background, there is still a core curriculum and the academic classes that are relevant to every person, no matter what the track is.
Yeah. So, like most business schools, we have core classes. So now as of 3 years ago, we went from like the school that started the last or the latest in the schedule to like we're basically the first, where classes literally started. Today's Wednesday, right? Or Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. So classes started yesterday in the States, Monday, and they take 3 classes, but between August and what we call the winter quarter, which ends in March, that's where you pretty much take all of your core classes: finance, stats, etc., accounting. But in that period too, especially when you start getting into the winter quarter, then what we call electives start opening up, and those opportunities become available to you. So you start with 3 classes in the August-September timeframe, because you're also interacting or working on the career side of things. But then once you start getting into the fall, October, companies start coming on campus for the employer briefings. We made what we think the class of curriculum flexible, so that with some of those core classes, you have the opportunity on when you can take them. So if you're focused on finance or marketing, we're recommending that you take those core classes in the fall quarter in preparation for the interviewing aspect. But like I said, the whole roadmap for some of these specializations, and we have 15 of them, really kind of starts in the winter quarter, where we built out a roadmap. We said these are the sequence of courses that you should take when. It's up to you. Many of our students do at least choose one specialization. They're all optional. Some will even sort of do one in its formal capacity and then pick a second one, just more because they have an interest. A lot of them will look at entertainment or real estate just because they're not going in the formal path. But I think, for those who, again, whether they're career switchers or they want to sort of kind of go back to industry, the curriculum is a lot of resources in that particular center that sponsors workshops. They have a mentor program you have to apply for. They have things, especially for those who don't have a technical background. I mentioned these workshops where they're like, okay, there's some students who they just want to know about coding, or maybe they want to do a deep dive, so they have additional sort of courses on the weekends that are sponsored, and just like everything you want to know about coding. So it's not like a formal, like register for a course. You could, and that's sort of off the Anderson campus at the School of Engineering and Computer Science, but the Eastern Technology Center would be something you definitely want to look at. Of course, we have somebody in our Career Management Center, a counselor dedicated to working with those students who are looking for or who want to get that specific opportunity that you're talking about. It sounds like, are you coming from the tech space already?
I'm not coming
You're
from
not,
tech,
which is fine. So that's where you weren't here for a little bit. I was talking about earlier, if you do have the good fortune of like you're applying, you're admitted, you can start the relationship with the Career Management Center as early as May. So then they start revamping your resume, they start working on your 30-second pitch, you go through this whole homework experience way before you even come on campus, start figuring out like, are you the best fit for a particular firm or the industry? What kind of homework are you going to have to do to really get yourself ready to just even start interacting with, from the employer briefing side in October? So you kind of go through like a boot camp. And I didn't mention all the other resources they have at the Career Management Center. I have like a 400-page, they call it the Parker ebook. And in it, it'll say, like, say for technology, a sample resume for somebody who wants to do product marketing, the vocabulary you should be aware of, a day in the life of somebody who's working at a firm like Adobe. They show all the companies that recruit on the campus, skill sets that you should have for these particular opportunities. I was there, a week ago on campus and during orientation, and Dean Ragazzi was talking about she's hearing, as part of sort of the forecast, she's hearing from more firms that they, when they sort of are listing specific skills in the job qualifications, they're leaning more and more now to making sure that applicants have a full match, not like 5 out of 10, 7 out of 10 skills, 9 out of 10. The labor market is such in the U.S. that it's a little bit tight, but it's loosening up. But firms are, in my own words, sort of backing away from sort of like the leap of faith, saying like, hey, I really like this guy. I think he can do the job. To more like his resume, his interview, all showcase that he has the appropriate skill set. So that's where like working with the counselor, the Eastern Technology Center would be definitely things that you would get involved with. Again, not that we're the only school that sort of can do that for you, but I think when you look in what I was saying earlier as my little public service announcements, like look at all the career management centers at whatever schools you're applying to, and seeing sort of what their program and what their resources are to help you, that's going to be like an important component. And it's definitely for anybody who is a career switcher or again, whatever you're focused. And again, a little bit of our advantage, but you got Haas too. We're on the West Coast. It's a great tech corridor for all those opportunities as well, up and down the U.S., up and down the West Coast from LA.